Thank you, Mr. Chip. We are, what is the day? July 11th, 2023, Committee of the Whole, Finance Administration Communication. We have council members present: Carson, Anderson, Stewart, Forsyth, and I am presiding officer for this meeting, Steve Fields. And we will, at the request of Councilmember Anderson, we're going to switch item 3 and item 4. We're going to switch item 3 and item 4 because you're going to recuse yourself on 4 or on 3, which will become 4. Okay, perfect. And we will get started with our feature issue of the day. We had a great discussion last time. And this is the follow-up to City Council outreach activities.
That's right. Jill Smith, Communication Manager. And boy, a month flew by, but here we are for part 2 of our council outreach conversation. So last month we talked about Derby Days. This weekend, the Redmond Art Walk, August 17th. We have plans for council booths at both those events. And then we wanted to continue the conversation to gauge your interest in having additional outreach activities. So I listed a few of those options in the memo. We can talk about that. And get your interest and ideas. But first, I just really wanted to, I guess, pose the question to the council of, do we even want to have, are we ready to have additional outreach activities and staff those? So just make sure that we have sort of a quorum of interest in doing that. And then if yes, I would love to support you on that along with Jason Brown, and then just determine what does that look like. So does that sound like a good place to start? Okay.
So you want to?
So we have Derby Days, we have the Redmond Art Walk in August. Is everyone a yes on let's talk about additional? I realize I don't think we really did that with the group.
But you want to know that up front, right? Like now?
I think so, unless you'd rather brainstorm what are those options, and then yes, do we want to do
Well,
that
I think
or
we
no?
can do that. So I will just ask the council members, do we want the third issue that our communications, was that a yes with your hand raised? Okay. I think one at least. I see no objections from anyone else.
I have a comment.
Sure, go ahead.
I think there actually is a third, because I think a lot of us are participating in National Night Out at the beginning of August.
Wonderful point. Yep. Okay.
Okay, so we will, yes. The answer,
Okay.
I think, to your question is yes, we'll make time today and talk about that other outreach activities.
Okay, so Derby Days, National Night Out, draw, Downtown Redmond Art Walk. And then I guess then we're talking about a potential 4th.
Councilmember Stewart. Councilmember Forsyth.
I was actually just going to comment that I like the ones that we have currently scheduled, and I'm not necessarily sure that we need to schedule another one. I think the Art Walk is a great opportunity for us to be out in the community, and the other 2 that we generally participate in also will give us some good face-to-face time as well.
Okay.
Councilmember Stewart.
Yeah, I think that the next couple of months are kind of full. And I still really love the idea of the council having a chance to discuss meetings outside of these walls. So whether it's later in this year or at the council retreat after the new year, early on, there are certainly these opportunities in outdoor spaces that are time sensitive in the summer, which means planning needs to, happen before that. So I continue to be interested in the conversation around those ideas, but I do think that for the moment, the summer is looking full.
Just a quick question. What have we done historically with council outreach during an election year? Do we minimize that? Do we pretend that we're not in an election year? What have we done over the years?
During my time here, we have not had, say, neighborhood conversations around kind of closer to Election Day. That's my recollection.
Okay, yeah, makes sense to me. Councilmember Anderson.
Why not?
That's just my experience.
Okay. Do you know if there's a reason behind that?
I don't know that there is a specific reason other than that it hasn't happened, that there's other things going on.
Okay. It seems like we might be shortchanging the community if we're missing out on neighborhood conversations. So thanks.
Well, I'll give an opinion on that. I think in the issue of fairness, if all of the candidates were involved in a conversation, then I think the community would get the benefit of hearing. But if it's just already sitting electeds, then I'm not sure that it's, I would actually prefer, whether it was informal or not, that we don't overload the community during election year with elected officials. But I see.
Interesting. Thanks.
Great. All right. Moving
Okay.
on.
All right. So we're in agreement that we'll sort of table that additional meeting conversation until either later in the year or during the retreat, talk about it. Okay, great. Thank you. Appreciate your time. Oh,
Councilmember Carson.
Thank you. So I agree actually that there's lots of forums, and if you're running for office, whether you're elected or not, there's a lot of things going on in an election year. I think we've tried to do in what we call off years, when nobody's up for election on the council, we've tried to do that meeting with the community where we go to a place outside of City Hall and just, engage the community and talk about things that are important to that particular neighborhood. So I would support that. I think that this is the right amount. I would suggest that there is an opportunity for everyone, every council member certainly, to engage with the community on August 4th, which is One Redmond's Wine Walk. So at Redmond Town Center. So just to pitch for that one.
Thank you.
Sure.
all right. Thank you.
Trying to get used to this microphone. So item 2, approval of the AmeriCorps Fellowship Agreement. Hello. Hello. Take it away.
I'm trying to get used to the new microphones too. So good afternoon, council. So again, this item would authorize a $62,000 agreement with Civic Well to bring 2 AmeriCorps fellows for their 23-24 service year to the city of Redmond. One fellow would specifically be dedicated to Redmond sustainability efforts. The other would be supporting our shared regional efforts, specifically the Energy Smart East Side program. And so this evening, I'm just requesting council's approval to add this to the July 18th consent agenda.
Comments or questions from council members? I see thumbs up. I see a hand from Councilmember Anderson.
I just wanted to say thank you. I appreciate that you've been looking at different ways to work with AmeriCorps to expand our sustainability program workforce for you. So I'm looking forward to that outcome. Thank you.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of enthusiasm for this, so I don't see any questions, and I thank you for your time. Now moving to item 4, update to the Redmond Municipal Code for the Library Board. And Cheryl. Hello, City Clerk. Red is on.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I am bringing forward an ordinance for council approval to change the Library Board of Trustees' term limits from 5 years to 3 years. 3 and 4-year terms are common for most of our boards and commissions, and 3 is a default term limit in our general board's code. Councilmember Stewart, who was previously on the Library Board, asked us to look into making this change. The Library Board Chair brought this item to the board, and they voted unanimously in favor. A 5-year term is a long time commitment and lessens the amount of people who can serve on the board. Shorter terms would allow for more voices and perspectives to be heard, which would help the library better meet the needs of the Redmond community. We have received 13 applications since the beginning of 2023 and have only had 2 openings available to fill. The proposal is that the current members complete their 5-year terms, and then subsequent appointments and reappointments will be 3-year terms. I don't know if Councilmember Stewart wants to add to that.
Councilmember Stewart.
This is so exciting, and I would like to thank the staff, Lisa and Cheryl, for working on this. This is so exciting. The 5-year term is such a long time that I haven't pulled the data, but many of the terms are not able to be fulfilled all the way because folks move, have life changes, whatever. So the change to a smaller term creates a lot more predictability for the board to manage itself. And one of the primary functions of the library board members is to become awesome ambassadors of the library and of this awesome resource in our city. So for more folks to be able to be engaged in that and to reach a point where they're able to feel satisfied in that and then move on to their next engagement, it's a win-win. It was something that had been discussed when I was on the library board, and then earlier this year, the council, we were adjusting some of the other terms, and it came up again, and staff were super responsive, and library staff were super responsive in getting in touch with the board. And I just think everyone deserves a little bit of gratitude for how quick and seamless the process went. So thank you. Very much in support.
Thank you, Councilmember Stewart. Any comments from other council members? Councilmember Forsyth.
Do you know, you said some are 3 and some are 4-year terms. Do you know why they're not all the same? Or do we have any background on that? Or how many are more 4-year terms or more 3-year terms?
So I know the parks commissions, they're pretty much all the same 3-year term. We just changed I think it was the Arts and Culture Commission to 3 years to match up. So the Human Services Commission is 4 years. I don't know why a couple others are also 4 years. I don't have the background on why there's some is 3, some is 4, but our general board code, so say if a board didn't have a term limit specified, it would be 3 years because that's what's in our general code.
General code, okay. And then I know the Planning Commission has a term limit. Do the others also have term limits? Do we know?
Yes, so the term limits is 2 terms consecutively for most of them.
Okay.
So there's like Civil Service Commission, things like that kind of have different rules, but for the rest of them, it's usually 2 consecutive terms.
Okay, thank you.
And what is this going on consent?
Yes.
To make the change? When?
July 18th.
Okay. Councilmember Carson.
Thank you. So the board currently is just a 3-member board, correct?
No, I believe it's 5 members.
Really? Okay. Oh, maybe I'm thinking historical. There's a...
Oh, the Landmark Commission?
Landmark
Yeah,
Commission. Thank you.
yes,
Okay.
that one is 3.
Right. Okay. So, because I was wondering, obviously, if we've got 13 people applying to be on the board, the library board, then, so do we know what dictates the number, or are we at liberty to change that number depending on?
So you're asking if we can change the amount of people on the board?
Correct.
I would have to do more research into that, and I know I said 5, but I'm not sure if it's 5 or 7. I haven't looked it up.
Okay. I was just curious. If you don't know, it's okay.
If you wanted to, say, for instance, increase it, I would have to
Presumably,
look
that
in to
would be-
see if that's something doable.
Right. I mean, I would think unless it's, like, obviously the Lodging Tax Advisory Committee, that's a state law that is pushed through to code cities, but I would very much doubt that it's probably our code that dictates what that is.
Yes, and the only issue with increasing a board, the number of members on a board is that you can end up with quorum issues if too many people
Correct.
can't attend. So,
Correct, yeah.
so, you have to just keep that in mind. if you
Right,
wanna
and it may
use
be a
it.
temporary spike in the activity in terms of desirability to be on the board.
Yes, and then if you have people drop off, then you
Right,
have
have
vacancies.
quorum problems,
Yeah,
yeah.
quorum problems.
Okay, great, thanks.
So any objections to this being on consent for July 18th? I see no objections. And I want to thank Councilmember Stewart for leading this. I think it's brilliant. 5 years is a long time, so.
Thank you. To be just very clear, I asked a question and the staff did everything. So,
Well,
thank you.
You earned your pay. It took you more than 10 hours, or less than 10 hours.
It is indeed 5 on, yeah. So, okay, thanks.
Thank you. So that brings us to our last item. And we still have a quorum with Councilmember Anderson. Thank you, Councilmember Anderson. So we are moving to item 3, which is now our last item, which is approval of consultant agreement with HDR in the amount of $180,000 for the Novelty Hill Water and Wastewater Strategic Asset Management Plan. It's a lot of words.
It's a mouthful, isn't it? This money was allocated, excuse me, good afternoon, council members. Aaron Burt, Public Works Director. This money was approved in the 23-24 budget, amount of $180,000. As you may be aware, Novelty Hill is a county urban plan development located just outside of the city of Redmond. The city provides water and wastewater services to the Novelty Hill urban plan development. And the customers there in that location pay their bills to the city. We collect those funds, and we actually keep it in a separate utility fund from our other utility funds. This project moving forward will review the existing assets in place. We have not done a strategic asset management plan for this UPD. We'll end up doing a condition assessment on current assets, create a risk-based prioritization CIP plan, and recommend further improvements to maintenance SOPs, among other tasks. We're seeking to move this on to consent on July 18th.
Perfect, thank you. Questions from council members? No questions. So I just have a comment. I'm always a big fan of asset management plans. I think that they are, in the end of the process, they serve to not only keep the assets working, but they, in my opinion, they save money. You don't have the unscheduled maintenance or the surprises or breakdowns. And you also know what you have out there.
Yep.
So I'm always a fan of asset management plans, and I'm a fan of this one. So,
Well, I appreciate that support, and I'll just let the council know that through an internal reorganization, we're able to recreate a asset manager position for the city, and that position was filled last month by a gentleman by the name of John Shepard. Poached him from King County. He has a passion for this work, and right now what we're doing is we're taking a look at, there had been some previous work done on asset management. We have some gaps. We're developing a roadmap the way forward. This is going to be one of our first major initiatives to tie into that system. So looking forward to the outcomes.
yeah, no, and I was going to say this is a good learning, or going in this direction creates that foundation for what we learn that we can then take to other parts of our infrastructure. So
Absolutely.
I appreciate that, letting us know that. So thank you. Thank you. And I don't think there are any issues with this going to consent. I see no objections. So perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you. With that, we are at the end of the meeting, and we are adjourned.
And your audio's